Mayor Pro Tem Denise Del Mar is ill today. Councilmember Jean Goss.
Here.
Councilmember John Harabedian.
Here.
And Councilmember John Capocia.
Right, and if we can all, thank you so much, Madam City Clerk. If we can all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay, ask that you place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And for the invocation, in 29 years since we've had a world championship, may the big Dodger in the sky deliver another one.
Absolutely. Go Dodgers.
Short and sweet, and with passion and sincerity. Okay, if we did not have a closed session today, so we'll skip that item, and I'll just ask for approval of the agenda.
I'll move for approval.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That passes unanimously.
So who second?
Okay, and the next item is approval of the minutes.
So moved.
And I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And that passes unanimously. Next is mayor and city council reports.
I have nothing to report.
Same.
Okay, don't kill me. I'm going to report really quickly. All of our Dodger fans. And I'll do it fast. Congratulations, Community Emergency Response Team CERT. There were 38 folks that went through the program, and they completed their 20 hours this last Saturday. Hopefully all 38 passed and got their certificates. Second anniversary of our drought-resistant gardening, and we had a learning day. It was a good turnout, and hopefully people can appreciate what we've done over the last 2 years and can adopt some of what they've learned yesterday or Saturday. And then lastly, congratulations to our Public Works Department for getting a congressional recognition of excellence on their work for ADA and the resurfacing of the playground structure. Done. Minute.
Well done.
You're here.
All right, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to public comment. Are there any public comment items for items that are not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to our consent calendar. And Madam Assistant City Manager, I'll give the floor to you.
On consent, we have items A through G. Item A is adoption of Resolution 1753 of the City of Sierra Madre, approving certain demands. We also have item B, adoption of Resolution 1754 of the City's Council of Sierra Madre, approving certain demands. Item C, consideration of Resolution 1746, adopting the city's investment policy. Item D, Treasurer's Report for quarter ending June 30, 2017. Item E, item was pulled to discussion, is item number 5. Item F, second reading of Ordinance 1393, approving the Joint Powers Agreement for Los Angeles Community Choice Energy and implementation of a Community Choice Aggregation Program. Item G, second reading of Ordinance 1392, amending Chapter 3.08 of the Sierra Madre Municipal Code regarding purchasing procedures to provide new purchasing limits and providing formal bidding procedures under the Uniform Public Construction Cost Accounting Act. That's all the items for consent.
Thank you, Assistant City Manager Medina. Do we have any questions on any of the items on the consent calendar, items A through G?
Not for me.
Okay, seeing none, we'll open this up for public comment. Seeing no one coming to the podium, I'll bring that back for discussion.
I move that we approve the consent calendar.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. Okay, and if we can ask Planning Community Preservation Director Gonzalez to come to the front. We have our first item for public hearing, which is historic designation on Casa de Monte Lado residence.
We do have a PowerPoint presentation for you this evening, very brief. So you might have to adjust your seats. I just wanted to mention that the property owner is here this evening, Wyatt Sullivan, and you can ask him questions after the presentation if you have any. At this point, I'd like to go ahead and get started. Casa de Monte Lado, which translates as House of the Morning Side, was named by its first owner, Charles Worthington Jones, The house was constructed in 1906 and is distinguished at an individual level, both historically and architecturally. The historical significance of the house is due to the longtime owner and original builder, Charles Worthington Jones, pictured. And he was the first elected mayor of the city of Sierra Madre, as an example. It's also the property as an example of the type of upper middle class housing that was being constructed in Southern California during the 20th century. And the house is also architecturally significant on its own, as an example of its colonial revival architectural style that appears unchanged from the original design, with the exception of the rear addition in 2015. And that was performed under the Secretary of the Interior Standards for Historic Preservation. The findings for historic designation, which are included in your packet in more detail, these are the basic findings. Criterion A is historic, that the site is associated with local persons significant to the history of Sierra Madre, that being Charles Worthington Jones as the first mayor. And criterion B, architectural, that the project does embody a distinctive characteristic of the style, type, or period, that being the colonial revival architectural style of the house. The second aspect of the presentation this evening is the request for a Mills Act contract, and the applicant is asking concurrent approval for both. The City Council could approve a designation for Mills Act contract, and that would be to allow, which would ultimately reduce the property tax liability for designated cultural resources. And the owners are required to invest the tax savings in the rehabilitation and maintenance of their properties. A Mills Act participant may receive substantial property tax savings of up to 40% or even more each year for improvements that are made to the property. The property owner has continued to rehabilitate and restore his house during his ownership, and to date he has spent just approximately $400,000 in both the exterior work and systems-related work, as indicated in the slide and also in the staff report. The staff report also does highlight the financial analysis for the project, as well as a tax assessment guide that will be formalized by the LA County Tax Assessor's Office. The fiscal impact for the tax adjustment, the property owner would realize an estimated of approximately $173,000 in savings over the 10-year life of the contract, and the estimated loss of revenue to the city would be approximately $36,000 over the 10-year life of that Mills Act contract. The findings for the Mills Act contract, staff and the Planning Commission both believe that these can also be made. The Mills Act contract will serve to compensate for the cost of rehabilitating and or maintaining the cultural resource under finding A, historic, and under finding B, architectural, that the rehabilitation of the resource will occur prior to or in conjunction with the use of the Mills Act contract, and it will not impair the architectural, historic, or aesthetic integrity of that resource. The Planning Commission, as I mentioned, did hold a public hearing on October 5th, and they unanimously recommended to the City Council concurrent approval of both the designation and the Mills Act contract. The alternatives before City Council this evening are to recommend approval of the request for historic landmark designation, recommend denial and citing the reasons why the findings cannot be made, or continue the matter in approved direction to staff. If the council recommends approval of the designation, then they also have the option to recommend approval of the Mills Act contract, or recommend denial and stating the reasons why the findings cannot be made. Staff, as well as the Planning Commission, are both recommending approval of the designation of Casa de Montelado residence, which is located at 49 East Alegria Avenue, as a local historic landmark to be listed in the city's historic resources list, and approval of the Mills Act contract pursuant to City Council Resolution 17-51 and Planning Commission Resolution -1708. That concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, either for me or the applicant. And also Charles Fisher, who is the architectural historian who prepared the report, who has arrived now. We are here for any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Director Gonzalez. Do we have any questions from council for Director and/or the applicant or the historian?
I attended the planning commission meeting and I don't have any questions.
Put your mic up, please.
Yeah, I did attend the planning commission meeting when it came before the planning commission, so I don't have any questions. I'm pretty familiar with it. So.
Great. Anyone else?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you so much. And since this is a public hearing, I would like to open up the public hearing. If you do have any comments on this item, please state your name and your address. Okay, seeing none, I'll bring that back to the council and see if there are any other additional discussion items, points that you would like to make.
I think the people up here at the dais tonight are somewhat biased in this in as much as there's a mayor and 3 former mayors sitting here, all of whom acknowledging the historic significance of this house once being a mayor's house. So
You're here.
that's
I
my only
thought that-
comment.
Agreed, and report was very well done. The house looks beautiful, and I have no reason to vote against it, so yeah.
I've been following it from the curb since they started the rehabilitation. I think they've just done a fabulous job, and you know the report states that they've spent a king's ransom in fixing it up. So I think it's very appropriate to approve both.
Great. And appreciate the report too. It was very detailed and got a really good history lesson there, so thank you. Okay, given that,
move for
do I hear a motion?
I'll move for approval on both
I'll
fronts.
second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And that item passes unanimously. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
We're excited.
Beautiful.
And we're excited that people are coming forward for the requests on this item because there has been a cry out from the residents to do a historic survey, and so thank you. Great.
This was, if I may, this was the house that started the whole movement.
Thank you.
Charlie Fisher, historian. This was the house that started the whole movement to delist a bunch of properties in Sierra Madre a few years back. So it seems kind of a little ironic, but really fun
Full
that we're putting
circle.
it back on the register.
Yes, and yeah, to read the history in that and the chronology was extremely interesting. So thank you so much, and again, appreciate the report.
You're welcome.
So the next item that we have on the agenda is another public hearing item, and I would like to ask again Director Gonzalez to come to the front to report on Ordinance 1394.
Yes, actually, we have our building official, James Guerra, who will be making the staff presentation.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. Before you is an item of modification of the building code. For the last 2 building code cycles, we have removed the exemption for fences up to 6 feet and have been requiring permits for fences up to 6 feet. Staff has reviewed the results of that change in the code and no longer feel it's necessary. We still require a planning department approval for all fences, but we are recommending that we change the code to we do not require permits for fences up to 6 feet. This is consistent with the state building code, although the state building code is now at 7 feet, but this is consistent with what we previously had in our code and are recommending that we go back to not requiring permits up to 6 feet. We still require planning department approval because we regulate the setback, height, and location of fences, but do not require a permit for it up to 6 feet. That's our basic recommendation. It's taking back out an amendment that we put into the code previously and going with an exception up to 6 feet.
Great, thank you, Mr. Guerra. Do we have any questions?
One quick question. If it still requires the planning department's approval, is there any sort of fee?
No,
Okay.
it's done over the counter. We just simply require the site plan, so before they start construction, we go over the setback with them.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, sir. And again, given this is a public hearing item, if anyone would like to comment on this item, please step forward. Okay, seeing none, I'll bring this item back to council for discussion and/or for a motion.
I think it's a great thing, so I'll move to approve.
And I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and that passes unanimously. Okay, the next item on the agenda is a discussion item, and I believe we have Recreation Coordinator Lowe that will give us information and an update on the library survey and ballot question.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council. I'm Clarissa Lowe, and I'm here to talk to you about the the library public survey that on the October 3rd council meeting, city staff presented to the council with options, seeking the opportunity for the community input regarding the Sierra Madre Public Library. The city council directed staff to obtain information regarding the survey, costs, and most reliable practice for conducting the survey. The staff contacted the National Research Center. Based on their qualifications, they met all of the qualifications we were looking for in order to conduct the survey. So we felt the approval, and the approval was solidly required by the city manager. The current library building is over 60 years old and in desperate need of large financial investment to bring the building up to date and ADA compliant. Estimates run from $1.3 million to address all deferred maintenance and ADA improvements up to $3.9 million to both address the existing building and add a needed expansion for adequate community space. Staff's been looking into options to address these issues, including the possibility of relocating the library from its current location to the community center at 611 East Sierra Madre Boulevard. The City Council, Library Board of Trustees, and the Community Services Commission have collectively held several meetings and the community forums over the past 6 months but have not received clear direction from the community. We recommend as a staff, the staff recommends, contracting with the NRC for a postcard survey of the community. The sample was included in your attachment. And this alternative will allow the city to narrow down the questions down to 2 to 3 pertaining to the library options and 2 pertaining to possible funding options. All questions will be supplied by the Board of Library Trustees and remitted to staff for submission to the NRC, which, again, our National Research Center. So, also included in the section is demographics, which the NRC recommended and felt was important to include. What we're looking at is there are currently 5,000 households in Sierra Madre. Staff has elected to survey 3,000 of those households randomly. This is the hopes that not only are we getting residents, but also apartments, full residencies, not just households. The survey will be sent in 3 mailing waves to the same people. This way, we're hoping to get these responses after the reminders, and we're including a URL so that hoping they will submit possibly by email as well. With the sampling selected, staff's intent is to receive between 800 to 1,000 responses, keeping the margin of error between plus or minus 3%. It's a substantial sampling, allowing us to get quality data on the opinions of the residents and using close-ended questions. So this will accomplish things a lot faster with the survey company as well if we use the close-ended questions. The process of obtaining and receiving responses should take approximately 8 weeks. After that, the summary report will be provided by NRC, which should take about 3 weeks in calculation after the last batch of surveys are received. And we should receive city analysis. All analysis will be provided to council after. The additional thing, the alternative that we're looking at is not only to do the survey, but also add the ballot question, which was provided to you on the report. It's up to council as to whether we want to proceed with the ballot question and the survey, if you feel that's pertinent. Please instruct staff on how you'd like to go about that. Financially, depending upon the selected alternatives, we have an alternative of 3 waves of mailing at 3,000 randomly selected households, which would total approximately $14,850, or 2 waves of mailing at 3,000 randomly selected households at approximately $12,100. This wasn't previously budgeted in the approved 2017 and 18 fiscal budget year. The city staff is seeking approval to allocate funds from the general fund reserves unless alternative funding can be procured. This is what we're kind of looking at this point, and so just want to make sure that we can get this ball rolling. Are there any questions?
I do have a question. The Dodgers are winning 3-1.
It's an interesting question.
And the 3 waves of mailing,
Yes.
is that 3 notices to the same people?
Yes.
And how do you know if they've already sent it in? You'd be asking them to fill it out again?
So once they actually receive the response
Yeah.
from that resident, they will automatically take that response, put it into their system, and any responses they receive from that resident again will just be null and
Okay.
void.
All right, so the response will have the address of to where it
Yes.
was sent. Okay. All right.
Councilmember Capocha, just a quick follow-up with, along the same lines with the Earl address then too, if someone, it will only be associated with one resident, multiple people can't use the same Earl address and have multiple responses.
Correct.
I assume that that is in place to secure that.
Yes, on the, if you look at this, at the sample, there's a small letter that goes alongside of the survey. That letter includes a statement kind of towards the last paragraph that states if the most recent birthday in the household can answer the survey, that's who they're looking for to answer the survey.
Only one. Okay.
But anybody could in the household.
Technically, anyone could,
Yeah.
but what they're going to account for is whether that person does or not, they're going to account for that mailing address.
Yeah. Mhm.
Sorry, Councilmember Capocha, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just had to follow up on that piece.
My other question is the decision about the Library Board of Trustees creating the questions. I mean, they are already on record as being in favor of this.
Right.
And I just have a concern, you know, and again, it's nothing against the people. I know they think this is a good idea, but, you know, just the perception of the public, knowing that an organization that is already on record as being in favor creating the questions, shouldn't there be a council review of this, or?
At this point, the city management has discussed it really is something that they would like Board of Trustees to take care of, because we are helping to guide Board of Trustees also to keep it unbiased. I've worked with the survey company thus far, and
Yeah.
I continue to work with them. Tomorrow night, I will have a meeting with the Board of Trustees to make sure that these questions stay on kind of an unbiased term,
Yeah.
so that we
Okay.
can get the right calculation and correct summary.
Okay, thank you.
The idea is to save time
Absolutely.
instead of coming back to us.
The idea is to save time. We'd like to get these mailing waves out.
Right.
You know, they don't send them out automatically and very quickly. What happens is they like to give like approximately about a week in between mailings. That way it doesn't seem like too much crowding, but at the same time they're getting the surveys in.
Right.
So, thanks for the presentation, great job.
Thank you.
The NRC, to Councilmember Capocha's question, they will help craft the questions along with the board, so.
So the city manager and I discussed some questions. We already began crafting like a foundation of questions that we're hoping to kind of push towards. Again, being unbiased, and yes, I worked with the NRC to get those questions done as well.
Got it. And then the question on the ballot, or the ballot question, do we have to give staff a final ballot question tonight, or is this just kind of a
No.
think about it and then we'll figure it out?
This is kind of, we're not really looking for council to craft the question or recraft the question. We are definitely looking for, obviously, advising, but not to give us exactly a question that you are all looking for. We are actually just looking to really figure out whether this is where you'd like to continue to go. If you'd like to continue with just the survey, or if you'd like to continue with both, if you feel that both are pertinent. We feel that the survey itself is actually pretty encompassing of everything that we're really looking for, but it is an option.
Did we think about, sorry, I didn't have this question before thinking about this, leaning against the ballot question for a couple of reasons now. Did we think about just sending one of these to each of the households and then doing 2 waves or 3 waves? And then, if we did that, then I would be less concerned about not doing the ballot question. And I guess if we have thought about it, do we know how much more that costs? And if we don't know that now, it's not a huge deal. But, if we don't do the ballot question, and if we just sent a survey to each household, it might be.
Instead of doing 3, maybe do 2.
Yeah, maybe do 2. I don't know. Did we think about that, or?
Or all 5,000 at 3, even if whatever consideration it is.
It cost too much more. I don't know.
So, I'm sorry, what you're asking is if we're sending the ballot question out to 2 or 3 way?
No, if we were to send the survey to every household.
Yes.
Instead of 3.
To 5,000 households?
Instead of 3. Do we know how much more that would cost?
So at 4,000 households, because that's something we were looking at for the margin of error percentage, at 4,000 households, we were looking at close to $18,000.
So
Okay.
at 5,000.
So at 5,000, we're edging 21, possibly 22,000.
The question is whether it statistically makes a huge difference.
I'm sure it does.
I don't well, we can talk after.
Yeah,
This is the
anyway.
questions, yeah.
That's fine. Okay, thanks.
Absolutely.
Well, and just one quick follow-up question. So with 2 waves versus 3 waves, given that we'd be sending out to 3,000 in this example, what percentage do we expect back with 2 waves versus 3 waves?
Okay, so within the first wave, their expectancy and what they've shown with their company is 70% respond in the first wave.
Wow.
With the second wave, they look at about 30% response. With the third wave, it could be anywhere between 10 to 15%. But at that point,
The remaining.
we're really looking at most people have already responded.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other questions for Ms. Lowe? Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and open this up for public comment.
Okay.
And if you do have a comment, if you could just please state your name and your address, please. Okay. Seeing none, we'll bring this back to council for discussion.
Just a comment about the math and the extra cost. I mean, the difference between 3 mailings and 2 mailings is $2,700. So if you did it the first time and hit 4,000, it seems like it'd be half of that 2,700 would be the incremental cost. It should only cost, what's that, $1,350 more.
Going with the 4,000?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think I'd be more in favor of sending to all 4,000 and just do 2 mailings.
5,000.
To 5,000?
Oh,
All
oh, so
5,000?
whatever the number is,
5,000 be
yeah.
2,700. It should be the same price of do two mailings to 5,000. It should cost 14,850. You're mailing the same number of things. Why would it cost more?
I like 5,000 because we're trying to get the public's, we're a small town, we're trying to get the public's take on this. Why play with margin of error here?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd want to know why, if we sent it to 5,000 in 2 mailings, why it would cost more than 14,850. It's the same number of mailings.
I assume because it's the printing cost.
cost
versus
of mailing.
postage so you're spending more on printing and less on postage, and that's probably why. Maybe that's where, I don't know though.
Printing is peanuts.
Right.
You know.
But I would just think it's just printing versus.
Okay,
So-
well, I think.
To me, whatever it is, I don't really care.
I would be in favor of 2 mailings to all 5,000. I'd like to see that cost get down to 15,000 or less.
So what you're looking at is not just printing and paper, but also summary results.
Oh, true.
So
Yep.
what you're taking into account is the fact that the summary result is going to come back from the company. But with that many more people, it will take a little bit longer.
bit.
We're going through that many more people.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Do you have any chance you cost that out at 5,000?
I can definitely cost that out at 5,000.
Okay, and so you don't have that?
I
yet?
don't have that.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry.
Would council be willing to go on not to exceed if there was a 5,000?
Sure.
I would.
Okay. Do you have that magic number in mind?
what was your number? You wanted 15.
15,000.
But yeah, it sounds like
Go a
it's
little
much closer.
higher, yeah, I mean, add another 500 to it.
You're a tough
I think it's
negotiator, Jim.
probably gonna be at least,
16?
yeah, 16,
Yeah.
17.
Yeah, I'd say.
Okay.
I'd say 17. but
17.
I'd be in favor of that and not doing the ballot initiative, and I think that,
I just think the ballot
That
initiative
achieves-
just opens up
Yeah.
just too much.
Well, and timing-wise, too, when we're working backwards, I mean, we'd have to pretty much know now, if I
Yeah.
recall correctly.
I want to know what you guys think, though, about, again, you know, we're the ones that ultimately make this decision. And, I mean, this survey, the purpose of this survey is to inform us about it. Are you comfortable with handing it over to the Board of Trustees? I mean,
the
they're not
questions?
elected officials.
Yeah.
With the questions themselves, you're saying?
Yeah.
So I am if, again, I would want NRC to kind of be driving this car because they're professionals, they do this.
Okay.
I wouldn't even trust us, really. You know, I just don't.
We might
think-
be biased in
we
our
don't
own
put
right.
together surveys, right? That's not what we do, so.
True, but we are the one, so again, the point about this is that this is going to inform us. We are the decision makers on this. And so I just want to be sure that we've got,
I think we have time for us to look at these questions. I don't think that it would be a big deal for us to take one whirl at them if we wanted to, and then.
Yeah, I'm good with our board, and I'm good with this company, but I don't see how it would hurt if we took a peek at them before they go
I
up.
know what you think. I
If
mean,
I'm-
I'm not married to that.
Yeah, if the NRC is the one that's saying this is scientifically what the question should be, and this is how you're gonna get a good result from the survey, then I'm fine. If it's not that tight, then yeah, I would be a little uncomfortable. So-
Okay, well, why don't we just advise staff that this is a concern with the council, is that this absolutely has to be an unbiased look, and we need that message you need to take that back to the library board of trustees as well, you know?
Right.
I mean, if that's okay.
I'm okay with that. You know, and I'd also be okay if we had a final look. But let's say we do have a final look and we're in disagreement with something, then
Yeah.
then what?
Well, then we change it. But,
Or you mean disagreement between us council members? Like,
No, with what they would submit and say, these are the X amount of questions, and we're like, no, that's just crazy, that's very biased, so we would go back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
okay, well, I'm good. I think if you just take that message back and just make sure that, you know, I mean, it goes without saying that they do understand that, you know, this is a decision that the council's going to make, and we have to live with this for the rest of our lives here. So please just make sure you're doing.
No
I
pressure.
will.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's, as I said, the questions that I reviewed with NRC, it was very important to them as well that it remain unbiased. It's something that, as I talk to the Board of Trustees, that's something that I want to make very, very prevalent
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
as well.
Maybe it'd be helpful also, Ms. Levy, just ask them for a statement as to how they do this and to ensure that there is not bias. And if you can share that with us, give us some peace of mind. Not just share the message one way, but see what the response is back. Because again, we trust in the fact that they do this. This is what their livelihood is. And there's some scientific basis for it. So maybe if they can just respond to us with that concern.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then maybe we can also ask council, what is that number if we want to say not to exceed an amount? I heard 16,000, 17,000 for 5,000 for 3 waves?
2 waves, I think,
Oh,
right?
2 waves.
2 waves,
Okay.
5,000 or whatever the.
Yeah.
2 waves, 5,000, 16,500, yes?
So I'm okay with 17.
17.
Yeah.
Okay. So is that clear? So to let them know, we are looking at 5,000 mailers to all the residents at 2 waves. If they cannot exceed 17, we're ready to go.
But we'd like it to come back a little closer to the 14.8.
I will express that.
And then
We may be doing other surveys in the future.
Yeah, repeat client here.
and it looks as if we may not be leaning towards the ballot question, but I just forget what that date is where we'd have to have an absolute must. Oh, and actually,
Yeah, it's 88 days before the election date, so it's going to be in early January. I don't have the exact date, but I heard a date that might be correct. January 12th sounds about right.
We've been up against
Um,
that. Remember
Also,
that.
the question before you has too many words anyway, so that would have to be finessed. A ballot question cannot exceed 75 words, and it can't be more than 1 sentence. It all has to be accurate and in one question.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, my opinion, I don't think that's going to help us to make a decision. It could just complicate things.
Well, and the financial aspect of it too, something we have to be considerate of. Okay, so Ms. Lowe, you have enough direction?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
yes, we're good? And we don't need any action on this, just direction, correct? Okay.
Great.
And who has, thank you so much. Who has the latest score?
It's 3-1.
Still 3-1.
3-1.
3-1, bottom of the
What
seventh.
inning? Bottom of
of the seventh.
seventh,
We're
okay.
almost to Kinley.
It was Turner that hit the
Yeah,
two-run
Turner,
homer.
Justin.
Like, to me, that means nothing, but that's great.
What? I know. Northern Cal.
Right, NorCal. That still means nothing too, so. Okay, so our last item on discussion, I think we have Assistant City Manager Medina for consideration of resolution number 17-55.
Yes, at the September 12 City Council meeting, City Council approved the refinancing of the water revenue bonds 1998 and 2003 series. That meeting, City Council approved the refinancing via a Public Financing Authority resolution. Staff is coming back to you with a resolution from the City of Sierra Madre resolution for approval of the same refinancing, and we're coming back with our restructure loan agreement. The restructuring manages to save additional monies on the refinancing, and mainly the main points to the changes are that we're now applying the existing bond reserve towards the liability or the bond, outstanding bond. At the same time, we're rolling over the last payment, the November 1st payment, into the refinancing in order to reduce the financing amount. Also, the timing of the financing is going to be supposed to fund now on October 31st versus the 26th. It's closer to the due date of November 1st, therefore we're not setting up an escrow account, which means that the timing is very tight. And it will be done at the refinancing is a lower amount, and we're asking, which results in additional savings of $171,000 over the term of the loan, which is a total of almost 1.3 million over the term of the loan.
Wow.
This results in additional annual savings of $42,000 for a total annual savings of about $110,000.
Woohoo.
So we are asking for City Council to approve City of Sierra Madre Resolution 1755, authorizing the execution and delivery of an installment purchase agreement, no longer an escrow agreement, and other documents related therefore to the respect of the financing of the Water Revenue Refunding Bond Series 1998A and Water Revenue Parity Bond Series 2003.
So thank you, Assistant City Manager Medina. And procedurally, is it coming back to us because of the escrow account piece and the dollar amount?
Mainly it's coming back to you because it's a refinance. It's over 100,000 refinancing. We got the approval on September 12th. However, technicality, we want to make sure it's brought to discussion. That's how it should be, even though it's another approval of the same financing. This is via city instead of the Public Financing Authority.
Oh, via city
Yeah.
versus.
Right, we want a resolution of the city council in addition to the previous resolution that was approved by the Public Financing Authority, plus the deal's only gotten better.
Yes,
Since the
sweet.
last time you saw it.
Which you should brag about. That's worth bragging for, so, great.
Excellent.
Okay, do we have any questions for Assistant City Manager Medina?
Yeah, my only question was related to, the title of the document says the staff report still has the escrow account. I just want to make sure
That's an oversight. The actual resolution
it doesn't. That's
doesn't
what,
have
okay.
anymore.
Yeah, then I'm good.
It's on the title that got carried over.
Okay, great.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll open this up for public comment. Anyone in the audience would like to comment on this item? Seeing none, we'll bring this back to City Council for discussion and/or a motion.
Okay, can I have a question?
Sure. Can you come to the podium?
Please come to the podium, and if you can state your name and your address, please.
Okay, my name is Dushanka Novak. I live in Sierra Madre for over 20 years, and this is the first time ever that I'm attending meeting like that, and I'm not bragging about it. But I still don't understand that, and the reason I'm here tonight is because of water bill. So when she mentioned now water, I want to know a little bit more about it. How is that going to benefit our citizens for our water bills? This is the only concern that I have, because my water bill is for four last months is $1,200, and this is I think this is too much, and we have to take care of that. And I'm asking all of you who are representing us here tonight and working for our best interest, what are you going to do for us in our water bill?
So what
Because I know Arcadia, our friends, they live in Arcadia, they spend same amount of water that I do in Sierra Madre and Cannon, and they paid 4 or 5 times less.
So,
So
ma'am,
what are we doing about
I
it?
apologize because I do have to ask. I'll see if we can answer this offline because this is not the item on the agenda. But we can do a couple of things, and I'm going to put Director Semino. Is he here in the back? If you can just stay afterwards, and we'll see how we can help assist you with that question.
I sound a little bit unprofessional because that's my first time ever.
No, and it's good that you're here.
Believe me,
Yes.
you know, the only reason I'm here tonight is because of my water bill, and I am going to be here more often now because I wanted to know what all of you are doing for us.
Okay, so what I can do, let's talk to you offline about that. Again, we have to keep the item
So I
directed
wanna know
towards
what
this
is-
refinance.
How is that affecting our water bill?
Thank you.
I'll meet with you after.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, going back to this item for discussion with City Council.
I'll move for approval.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and that passes unanimously. Okay, that motion carries, and we are at the end. Or do we have any new items for the agenda, for future agenda items? Okay, given none, do I hear a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much, everyone.
Nice job, man.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Good job, Mayor.